Thank you, David. Final 10 minutes, a brief set of anecdotes from the university and hopefully something to take away this idea that we're in crisis, and something that is hopefully inspiring and hopefully convinces you that the future is bright. Despite, of course, the comments that have already been made. And it is, of course, true that many universities, as Trinity referred to earlier, no longer offer courses in the type of work that we do in the room. Broadly, that field has diminished tremendously. But Richard and I are holding the fort, okay? I'm just going to give you some anecdotes about how we're trying to do this. And it is true, I think, that what Julie referred to as, what was it, moral anxiety and so, I beg your pardon? Moral hazard is a really pervasive sentiment among undergraduates at the university. And it is something we need to be very cognizant of in our offerings. We don't want to, I guess, give in my view, and I'm talking, and this is my personal view, we don't want to give in to the kind of gesture politics that is also quite pervasive. And to do this, we have made quite some significant changes in our curriculum over the previous years in anthropology at UQ, and I think that moral anxiety is partly overcome by focusing on fieldwork, for example, during the undergraduate degree, and to offer students a clear trajectory to some confidence in going out, engaging with people, and to do that really slowly from first year to second year to build this up. And that's what we've been trying to do. So from first year, some really basic introductory work on interviewing, observations, and so on. And then building in the second year to what we've been doing, Richard and I, a weekend field trip. We take our students out of Brisbane to a farm where they document Indigenous heritage and think about also, frankly, non-Indigenous senses of place, of location, and use some theory to make sense of all of that, but to really practice, what it's like to ask questions and document, take field notes, and so on and so forth, right? That in my case, he will talk about his courses, but in my case, that is part of the social impact assessment course that I teach. It's been mentioned a few times today. It's a really important field of work, I think, that's kind of associated with native title, heritage, and so on, and sometimes encompasses some of that work, but very poorly taught, I think, in universities. So we've been doing that quite well, dare I say, well. It's been growing, and there's about 60 students a year in that course now, and they do field work as part of that course in my case, in the city of Brisbane, in small teams, doing mini social impact assessments through interviewing and observations and so on. And all of that, of course, is aiming to build, as I said, some confidence in these young people, to prepare them for things like the guidelines for expert witnesses, so they know that this isn't some, kind of amateurish feel-good exercise. This is serious business, and it needs to comply with certain rules and so on. So we try to instill in our students some serious attitudes to undertaking research, basically, right? We look at case studies, legal cases, identifying shortcomings, judgments that address the methodologies of the academics, anthropologists in particular. So students take away quite a bit from that, and that does, in my view, overcome some of that moral anxiety that people have, because they can see that through good work, quality work, they don't need to be so anxious, right? They can do this, and step by step, they feel hopefully ready to undertake the work that we do in this room and other associated work. Finally, we have a dedicated ethnographic fieldwork course, which I also teach, and that's a self-directed fieldwork project in Brisbane under my guidance, and a more kind of independent project from the student. So hopefully you can see how we are trying to prepare students in diverse ways for the work that is, in our view, so important. And we want to, in fact, build on this further through field school, a proper, 1 week, 2 week field school for anthropology undergraduates. And that takes me to the final point that, we can't do this alone, right? Richard and I do applied work. I mean, I've done native title work for 20 years now, but we need your help. We need to collaborate with the organizations in this sector to, offer opportunities for honors students and PhD students who otherwise struggle to find, projects that are feasible for them in the time that they have, and so on. Land councils often have topical issues going on that they might, benefit from some research on these topics. So those are our aims for the future, and together we can do that. Thank you.